welcome to another episode of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com with me as your host, Chris. Check out my LinkedIn profile, McLeod, aka Diagnostic80. Joining me to discuss the recent news of Hasbro's search for a G.I. Joe and Micronauts senior brand manager and narrative director is Justin. No, check my LinkedIn profile, Bell. So without further ado, let's check each other's LinkedIn profiles. Let's get stuck into this news first.
That sounds kinky.
Let's check each other's LinkedIn check your profile out.
Is that like Tinder?
A few days ago, Hasbro posted a number of job vacancies on their LinkedIn page that got a number of heads turning. The standout was most definitely the G.I. Joe and Micronauts Senior Manager Global Brand Development and Marketing position. The position was described as an immediate opening for a results-oriented, innovative senior brand manager to drive product development and marketing for our G.I. Joe and Micronauts brands. In this high-profile role, you will drive the strategic product vision for G.I. Joe and Micronauts, lead a cross-functional team of designers and engineers to ideate and manufacture the yearly toy line, and develop a global marketing plan that effectively drives sales. Partnering with internal and external resources, you will build a cohesive and actionable category and channel marketing plan. You will work with internal and external agencies and cross-functional teams to create global toolkits and communication tools necessary to drive sales. These toolkits include such things as merchandising guides, digital and broadcast assets, and product sizzles. You will work closely with the regional teams to brief them on the product line, help accurately forecast and partner to ensure success.
Chris, you make my product sizzle.
Well, of course, I've seen it. It should be pointed out, not your product that I'm sizzling, it should be pointed out that the job is also based out of Hasbro's Burbank, California location, Hasbro Studios, which further pushes the focus to the entertainment and movie side of the brand, and with the Snake Eyes movie edging closer and closer, that makes a lot of sense. Another interesting job for narrative director franchise development was also posted. That stated, Hasbro's Allspark Studios is seeking a creative executive to lead the development of some of our key brands across various media platforms. This creative steward or narrative director will be a development and storytelling partner for our franchise brand teams and will be responsible for methodizing and developing character voice worlds and high-level intellectual property direction for partners. This role will be called on to write characters, plots, dialogue and other creative content. In addition, this creative steward will be responsible for providing feedback and direction to other creatives to ensure consistency and exceptional writing quality within all brand expressions. This role will develop, write and review plots, dialogue and create text with and from other creative partners and collaborate with them to help every new expression be the best that it possibly can across multiple platforms. This role is an important part of the team tasked with crafting the storytelling that will establish the core vision for a Hasbro assigned brand. So Justin, what are your thoughts firstly on the senior brand manager position?
Buzzword, 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 and buzzword, buzzword, more buzzwords.
that was the most management speak ever, wasn't it?
I know, no kidding. I feel like they used a lot of big words and I have no idea what they're looking for. I mean, in all seriousness, that's, it's I think it lends more credence to the fact that they obviously, well, number one, there are no immediate plans for G.I. Joe up until the movie because they currently do not have this role filled because they fired the last three guys that had it.
Good point.
And now apparently they're looking for someone else to come in and fill that seat, which I think, yeah, as you look at how the Snake Eyes movie's aligning, filling this position now or shortly would probably, align pretty well with what their launch plans might be alongside the movie. So I think it should be reassuring to some folks in that, they've obviously got plans for the G.I. Joe brand to happen alongside the release of the film, which is probably a no-brainer anyway, but it's nice to see it in ink, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, they're certainly looking to fill a role, which is good news. I mean, Anybody who's a G.I. Joe fan, anytime Hasbro's looking to fill a G.I. Joe role, it means they have plans for the brand, and that's a good thing.
I mean, it was kind of on the cards in a way with Snake Eyes being around the corner. There must be product attached to that, mustn't there? I mean, there's going to be some element of product attached to that film.
I mean, G.I. Joe is an in-house brand for Hasbro, similar to Transformers in that, although Transformers, I still don't quite get how the whole Takara link is with that, but I mean, essentially, they basically don't have to pay licensing fees to somebody like Marvel or Lucasfilm, Star Wars, whatever, to produce toys for the line. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, they're going to want to do product and try to take full advantage of a movie release as much as possible to try to drive revenue.
It's recently come out, there's been a kind of change me. A change.org petition has been kind of making the rounds to put Mark Webber in that position and get him back in the seat. Of course, like I think as fans, I think the whole fandom would be kind of on board with something like that. I mean, Mark's kind of well respected in the community.
Sure.
I mean, even though, he actually did some amazing things on the brand. Unfortunately, there were, he was there at a time where it almost felt like they kind of put him in that position, and then there wasn't really much going on after that, or they didn't really have plans for much after that. So I'm not sure. Obviously, I'd be all behind Mark kind of getting back in that position. What do you think about that current kind of situation?
Well, I think it certainly makes a lot of sense, and yeah, Mark was in charge of the G.I. Joe brand, like you said, in kind of an unfortunate time where he didn't have a huge budget, didn't have a whole lot of resources to work with, and he still put together, a pretty decent, 50th anniversary, attempt, and kept some figures on Toys R Us shelves, and did some things other folks might not have maybe tried so hard. And he also, was in charge of the fan vote figure, and while I personally was not crazy about how that vote ended, I certainly can applaud his connecting to the fandom and doing that sort of thing. I think it was a great idea and a way to get fans engaged with the brand, and of course that ties back to some of the work he did with Transformers too. I mean, he was kind of the guy in charge of that survey that brought Windblade into continuity and various things like that. He is seen as kind of the catalyst for getting Transformers and IDW closely aligned, and some really great things with that brand for a while through comics and toys. So he certainly has the pedigree.
I was really excited about the fact, one of the things that upset me a little bit about his departure was the fact that he had plans for the Generation 3 line of Transformers, and I was, all new characters and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, that would have been a bold move, but also what an awesome and exciting thing for Transformers fans as well, to be getting what would effectively have been a completely new roster and team. You just think, wow, that could have been very, very cool. You know what I mean? And
it always seems like right when they're on the cusp of doing some really cool new things like that is when things sort of fall apart, because, and not that Transformers is falling apart, far from it. It's the Siege line looks pretty amazing, and but it's also another Megatron, another Optimus Prime, so on and so forth, another Hound, another Mirage, and it would have been very, very cool to kind of see what Transformers could have done with a whole new roster of characters. But yeah, I mean, he certainly kind of knows the brand. He's familiar with interacting with the fans. He's done some pretty interesting things that are fan friendly. I don't know if he was in charge of the Hasbro Pulse project, but he certainly played a role in getting Hasbro Pulse kind of up and going and interacting with the fans that way. So, I mean, ultimately, it's going to be Hasbro's decision, and I'm not sure how much credence they'll give the fandom and a change.org petition, but I think he certainly he's got a good step up on some other folks out there.
Yeah, as a strong candidate, definitely.
Absolutely, you should be.
I'd like to take this moment to wish Mark luck on that one. I think, he's a strong candidate for that position. And again, this is said through complete, an utter respect for Mark, but
absolutely,
I don't really know if Hasbro are looking in that direction at the moment. It's hard to tell from that company, in all honesty, what kind of direction they want to go. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if it went to somebody else, just from the kind of viewpoint of it, kind of looking to focus on like the movie aspect and the kind of entertainment aspect. And obviously, I know a lot of that actual job description Mark's done. He's got the experience in there. And obviously, I don't want to turn this into a Mark burst, because it'd be great if he could get that position. I just don't. It's really hard to tell what Hasbro are going to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and this is much more than just action figures. I mean, they're talking about the G.I. Joe Micronauts brands in totality, which I would think would encompass toys and films and perhaps animated series and all sorts of kind of different pieces of that. So it may be a different skill set that they're even looking for. I don't know. Anyway,
yes, Justin. So anyway, thanks for jumping on and chatting to me about the Hasbro search for a senior global brand management and marketing position. Did you fancy going for the narrative director by any chance?
I won't lie. I mean, looking at that sort of thing, that kind of seems like something that's up my wheelhouse. I mean, it would be really cool to play a role in some of that stuff. And I do have some, I've got an English background and some narrative experience. Ultimately, if it was a position in Providence, maybe, or Pawtucket, maybe I'd think about it. I don't know if I'm ready to move over to Burbank or not. But
that's true. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, the kind of pedigree they're looking for is probably way above and beyond a guy who's sold, a few thousand books on Amazon. So I don't know if that would even align with what they're looking for. But
you never know.
I will say my eyes lingered on that a little bit, and I hesitated for a minute over that LinkedIn profile and thought about submitting a little application, but ultimately I haven't done that. No.
So it's all those narrative directors out there, get involved because Justin Bell's not going for it.
This is your chance. I'm sure I was a shoo-in, so now that I'm not applying, all you other losers get chance.
You heard it here first. Justin Bell called all of you losers. Right. Justin, thank you. Just one last thing before you go. Interesting as well that this is based in California. That's something we should probably talk about quickly. Obviously, that's where Hollywood is. That's where the whole kind of shift for Hasbro as a company seems to be going. Any surprises there? Not
really. I mean, I think they were leaning that way anyway. I mean, I know obviously Daryl and Mark were both based out of Pawtucket, but if I remember correctly, a lot, and Bobby I know was one of the last kind of designers on the G.I. Joe brand, and I believe he was out of Pawtucket too. But I know there was a period of time during the 50th anniversary where one of the designers was actually based in Burbank. So, I don't think that's necessarily a really brand new type of situation, but it is interesting that both, the narrative director makes a little bit more sense because it is so connected with Hollywood. But the fact that just the manager of the G.I. Joe brand in general would be based out of Burbank is a little bit of a surprise, I think. But it definitely shows where they're skewing and how much connection they probably view the brand manager to have with Hollywood and with the film properties.
Absolutely. And again, big shout out to Mark Webber. Good luck, buddy, in your venture with this particular position.
We're pulling for you.
We all are at the Full Force. We're all rooting for you, mate. Anywho, that's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, Justin Bell. See you next time, and as always, up my wheelhouse. I mean, Full Force. Don't think I didn't notice you say up my wheelhouse. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of these platforms with feedback, questions or to say, who do you think you are? A serious operation now? No, not even close. Look out for more of these news bursts that we are posting on the Facebook page from now on. Full Force.